Hi, everybody, and welcome to our inaugural session for multi-cloud happenings. And we're very happy that you joined us today. We thought we'd kick it off with our Oracle Database Services for Azure Best Practices. My name is Tammy Bednar. I'm a product manager, and I focus on our Exadata database services as well as base database service. And really, at the start of the show, and with me today is Suzanne Holliday. Hey, Suzanne.
Hey, Tommy. Too kind. Thank you.
All right. So we're really happy again that you joined us today. And so let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at what we're going to talk about. So next slide, please. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit briefly about the overview of the Oracle Database Service for Azure. And then Suzanne is going to go over the architecture in the service model. We're going to show you how you provision an Oracle database through the Oracle Database Service for Azure portal. And then how you connect, which is really important, how you connect your applications, your Azure applications to the Oracle Database Services. Then a little bit about monitoring, how you can view the metrics, events, and logs within Azure. And as we go through the presentation, we're going to also point out some best practices so that you're successful to set up multi-cloud. And by the way, if you have any questions, please post those in Q&A. And I'll try to answer them while Suzanne is talking, or we will definitely, hopefully have some time after the presentation and we'll try to answer those live as well. Again, thank you for joining and please post your questions in Q&A. So next slide, please. Okay, let's take a look at an overview of the Oracle Database Service for Azure. So first of all, why did we even build this? Well, because we wanted to give Microsoft Oracle customers who plan to, if you're one of them, or already using Azure, a quick and simple way for Azure applications to use the Oracle database. So I'm going to go ahead and arrow down, and we want to provide an easy provision and use of Oracle Database Services and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with a familiar Azure-like experience. So if you're already using Azure, then this will give you an opportunity to easily create or provision Oracle Database Services. Okay, next arrow down. And then we want to be able to directly access Oracle Database Services in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure from Azure applications. And so if you're a developer, you like to take the least path of resistance. So we make it really easy to provision an Oracle database, set it up, and manage it in an Azure-like UI. So Azure applications can connect. So Suzanne's going to show you a demo of the portal in just a minute. So if you're familiar with Azure, this should look very familiar to you as well. One more arrow down. Oh, did we already have? Okay, there we go. And then finally, we want to be able to unlock high performance, high availability, and automated management of the Oracle Database Services. So with Oracle Database Services and OCI, Azure users can not only simplify the development of the innovative applications that you're working on with the Oracle Database Converged architecture, but you can benefit from the fully managed autonomous database. You can experience the performance of the Exadata platform, and most importantly, achieve high availability with Oracle. Okay, next slide. Okay, so ODSA is a guided experience to automate, as I mentioned, and simplify account linkages, the Oracle Interconnect for Azure deployment, and user entitlements as well. It configures metrics and logs to feed into Azure and provide a dashboard there. So it also provides a specialized portal to manage OCI database services with a UX experience familiar to Azure users like you. Okay, next slide. It's available in 12 interconnected Azure and Oracle regions, as you see here on the map. We have them in San Jose, Phoenix, Toronto, Ashburn, Vahito, London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, and our latest is Johannesburg. As you can see, that Oracle is very committed for this Microsoft Oracle partnership and committed to provide you a solution to make your multi-cloud implementations much, much easier. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Suzanne. She's going to go down and have a deep dive on the architecture and the service model. Suzanne?
Thank you, Tammy. Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm really excited that we're kicking off this series with you. And I think today's a nice introduction. We'll go as deep as we can in the time, but in the future, we'll be diving into specific areas of elements of Oracle Database Service for Azure as well, and highlighting features that industry experts are talking about, what our customers are doing as well. So one thing I just want to explain is how this works, because I think when we announced this, customers then were asking, well, which components from where? So let's just go through this particular model right now. So within the Oracle Database Service for Azure, it is an OCI service, as we all know. The database resources reside absolutely in the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And your Oracle Cloud Infrastructure account is linked to Azure account through an Oracle interconnect for Microsoft Azure. And they're the regions that Tammy's just taken you through. Currently, right now, they are synonymous with the Oracle interconnect service that we have, which is in addition to this Oracle Database Service for Azure service as well. So in order to find out where you want to run this, you really need to consult the regions and look at which regions we support, just to keep you updated. But for now, the regions are, as Tammy's just relayed. So like I said, it's about these two accounts that are then linked, right? And then you have an Oracle managed tunnel to actually facilitate this connection. So it actually is, in some respects, the internals of it is a managed service, because what we're offering you is the ability to bring together the Azure components of ExpressRoute and Oracle Fast Connect and make that as a managed offering to you. What does that mean? That means that bandwidth is on demand, which has certain advantages that we'll go through in a second. But the long and short of it is that this is all invisible to yourself. And I'll talk about the architecture briefly in a minute. But essentially, it's a shared tenancy in that respect, but each customer has a dedicated tunnel. So it's important to note that the Oracle Database and the Oracle Database Service for Azure portal resides in OCI. So on the very left, we can see this ODSA portal, okay? And this is why we've got the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure represented there. And then on the right, you'll see that the Azure components themselves. So one thing that I really want to highlight on this diagram here is the ODSA enterprise application. So this is what our Oracle development has created. They've created this enterprise application called Oracle Database Service for Azure, which you will see, and I'll go through that in a moment, which resides in the Oracle Azure Active Directory. So when you go in and you actually go into your enterprise applications in Azure, in the Azure portal I'm talking about now, you can actually search for that and you can select it. So they've created to do this, the reason why we've done this obviously is to create the ODSA roles and the ODSA user groups. And then these are selected when assigning the ODSA enterprise application Azure Resource Manager roles and groups to users as well. And these are needed as usual to perform basic database administration and infrastructure management tasks. And it's these particular roles that then enable you to use the ODSA portal and grant the permissions for that, which again is an OCI interface. And like Tammy said, it's an Azure-like experience. So, we've used public APIs to create this experience for you. Because let's face it, a lot of you may still be on-premise. You may not have explored Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, but you want to retain your Oracle database. And we want to lower that friction for you. So the ODSA's interconnect and account linking services are provided at no cost. So this is a very distinct advantage for you. And this is about this managed service that I was just speaking about. It brings you this dynamic bandwidth on demand to scale according to requirements. You don't need to then actually provision ExpressRoute or OCI Fast Connect because it's all available and made available in this network link when you provision. And any ingress or egress charges that are incurred for traffic traversing the interconnect or the Azure ExpressRoute OCI Fast Connect are included in addition to the port charges. So you're not paying for, like you usually would, the port charges. So that is a saving as well. And again, you've got no data bandwidth charges or a connectivity partner to pay in this case. However, I do want to just point out for this particular model, there are some VNet peering charges that would apply. But when you go and actually check that on the Azure site, you'll see that currently, as of today, the ingress and egress charges are pretty reasonable and absolutely the same today. Okay, so this is the architecture. And you can see here that we have on the left, the Azure region, and on the right, the OCI region. And we manage all the complexity shown. So this allows you as a customer to connect to Azure applications, for example, analytics or Azure Kubernetes service, whatever, to the Oracle database service via this very simple ODSA provisioning. And it enables you to concentrate on using your data and not be really immersed in building and manage a complex intercloud service. So with the database services, as I just said, your database resources are in OCI and your OCI account is linked, just to repeat that. And then for Exadata and BaseDB, the customer presentation is a peering relationship between a customer selected VNet, and this is an Azure VNet, and an Azure VNet in the Oracle Azure tenant. So the Oracle that the customer peers with, which is the spoke VNet, is dedicated to you as the customer. And from that spoke, we encapsulate the data and send it over the Oracle provisioned interconnect. And then we can perform a similar process on the OCI end, okay? So what we're doing here is we're automatically creating all the network plumbing between the cloud environments over the Oracle interconnect for Microsoft Azure. And we manage this service express route and OCI fast connect tenancies. And each customer has this dedicated private tunnel assigned, as I just mentioned. And this is because we've actually architected it in this way. This is how we can absorb the Azure Express route, ingress and egress charges when the traffic traverses the ODSA interconnect. So any, obviously, traffic not going over the interconnect, there will be charges incurred. So just wanted to point that out. And as I just said, we do use a virtual network pairing. And what that does, it links the virtual networks to route the traffic between using the private IP addresses. And that's where those charges will come in as well. But overall, we're saving quite a lot in also in labor, because we're making things much easier. So when we're talking about provisioning, there's some prerequisites that you really should check and be familiar with. And at the end of this presentation, we provide some good links as a source of reference. And you should always check your documentation before provisioning, which also highlights these particular points. So any existing Azure account has to have these particular administration privileges. Now, this means that this is required for the account linking part only. So, for example, if you do use Global Administrator, we're not actually asking you to keep that up afterwards. Once the accounts are linked, you can actually decommission these privileges. That's absolutely fine. It's just during that process that you would need some admin privileges in your Azure account to do the linking. And then very important to point out that any subscriptions that you wish to link, you need to be the owner of those subscriptions. And like I said, you need these global administration privileges as well. So before you begin, one of the essential pre-work you need to do is you need to create an Azure VNet for pairing and with a corresponding OCI virtual cloud network of ECN. And at the start, it's really important to plan your network because you really need to ensure that you've got no overlapping CIDR blocks between your Azure VNets and OCI VCNs. And if you're using Azure Kubernetes services or other services, obviously there's more, let's say, network considerations that you need to take into account as well. But very important to plan your network and make sure that you do not have these overlapping CIDR blocks. So on the OCI side of things, it's very, very important to ensure that you have the right service limits prior to your deployment, especially with Exadata. database service, where that can actually take, quite some time, in sense of like it's not immediate. It could be a day or two, for example. So you really need to plan up front and make sure that those service limits have been approved across the board for everything that you need before you begin, so that you don't actually encounter any delays. Again, you would need an OCI tenancy, and you would need supporting identity domains on that. However, you can actually create those on sign up if required as well. And one very, very important point to just to highlight really is that your home region of your OCI account must be an OCI Azure Interconnect region. So please consult the documentation and have a look at the slides Tammy's just shared, just to check that you are actually using an OCI Azure Interconnect region. I mean, you can obviously connect the regions together, but what you will see is, in Azure over global reach, it will go over and it will be very, very slow. And therefore, this is not really the experience that we're wanting. So this is why we insist that you need to have an Azure region, okay? And again, specific overlapping CIDR blocks, need to plan your network also on the OCI side and make sure that you don't have any between your Azure VNets and your VCNs. So the account linking process is, as you can see here, is you've got a fully automated configuration, and this is the full work. So it will go ahead and it will actually link the whole entire process for you, including identity, Identity Management Federation, so Active Directory. And you'll find that it's probably a lot of customers don't go for that option. They probably like a little bit more granular approach. So if that's what you prefer, then you can refer to the guided account linking, and this will actually direct you to the Azure portal and provide you instructions on how to sign up. And then it will provide you this option of whether you want to federate separately, okay? So after this is completed, it's really the next step is really the ODSA users in Azure that you need to set up. So you'll have like I just pointed out, this Oracle Enterprise application that we've made available for you. And within that, we've made these user groups in Azure Active Directory and the Enterprise application available. And you need to therefore then, once cloud linking is complete, then sign up and make sure that these basically the user groups and the users have been assigned. So assigning the ODSA roles and linking your subscriptions is really the next step and must be performed sequentially. This is where you would go into Active Directory. You would sign your ODSA Enterprise application, your Azure Resource Manager roles, and then assign your ODSA Resource Manager roles to users themselves. And then finally, in Active Directory, you could go ahead and assign the appropriate ODSA user groups for privileges that will collectively grant these set of database privileges to users. Okay, so as I said before, we're going to just take you through how this actually looks. And you can see here from the screen, we've got just I'm just using a GIF file for the simplicity purposes, so we can just pause and start this as I speak, just to go through the different elements. And like I said, before you begin to provision at this particular point, please make sure that you have fulfilled all your prerequisites and that you do have your service limits, especially for the Exadata database service already raised. So this will take you to the actual homepage screen that you're looking at now. And let me just, excuse me, 1 second. Just. Give me a second, I'm sorry, my mouse is frozen. There we go. Okay, so this is where we can show you how it looks. Some of you may have seen this already. And we're going to provision an Exadata database service right now. This is how it will look. And then if you look here on the left side, we have the database, VM clusters, and infrastructure. Okay, and then you have here you have on the left side, you have the infrastructure layer that is the first step that you would create within Exadata database service. And the way in which we actually go through is you would actually go through and you would click on the plus. You've got an infrastructure wizard here, and then you would click on this to actually deploy the infrastructure. And this is how it would look. So let's start with the basic screen. So here you can see that you've got to actually enter some project details. You've got your Azure subscription. So this is, again, the user that I was referring to, where you need to be an owner of in order to provision. And then you've got your Azure resource group underneath as well. So you would actually enter these project details for the new Exadata infrastructure. And you would select any of the subscriptions here that has already been linked to your OCI tenancy through the linking process, remember, that we just went through. And, if you only have a single subscription, by the way, you can't change the value in that field. You will just see that one. And if you have multiple subscriptions linked to your tenancy, then you can change the default value for these fields. And then again, you've got your instance details, the name, and the ODSA interconnect region that you would then enter. In this case, we're going to select US East. Okay, and then it brings you to the configuration tab. So on this particular screen, what we're doing is we're specifying the Exadata system model properties. So you would have a choice here of X8M or 98M and the number of database servers between 2 and 32, and the allocation of the Exadata infrastructure resources, and the number of storage servers between 3 and 64. Yeah. And then after you've chosen that, then we're going to go ahead and click Create. Next. Okay. And then here you've got also, previously you had your networking, so you've got your you've got the networking in the next step, and then we go ahead and we click Create. So we review that, and then this just gives you an overview of what you've selected. And then what we're doing here is we're going through in the ODSA portal, showing that we're creating the Exadata infrastructure and that it's succeeded. And to show you that we can actually then directly link into OCI. And here we had federated, so our Azure user credentials validated our OCI account. Okay. And that's the completion of that particular phase. So the next step is where we provision the Exadata VM cluster. And we, again, have a basics tab. So once again, this contains all your project details with your VM cluster resource, your VM cluster name. And then you, again, select a subscription that has already been linked to your OCI tenancy, just like you did on the infrastructures layer. And then you enter the instance name for the Exadata VM cluster resource and choose the actual region as well. So at the point of configuration, we're going ahead with selecting the Exadata infrastructure resource that we previously created for the new Exadata VM cluster that we're going to provision. And then we're going to select the VM cluster properties and enter the OCPU count per node and the Oracle Grid infrastructure version and the license type as well. Okay, so note here that you can bring your own license as well. You've got server license included or BYOL. The OCPU count per node. The infrastructure version, and now completing the networking. So again, here you can enter any, this hostname prefix is just a value that must be unique within the subscription chosen for your Exadata VM cluster. And then under network peering for the Exadata VM cluster, here just below, you've got to select an existing virtual network. So like I said at the beginning, your VNet must already exist for it to actually appear and come up here. And that's pretty nice because then you can just select it. And then the OCI CIDR field requires the CIDR block notation designed for the, the IP address ranges to the assigned network, excuse me. And then again, like I've said many times, please make sure that you don't have any overlap between your OCI CIDR blocks between your VNets and your VCNs. And then we're going ahead and going to integrate into the security is the usual SSH key pair that you either must generate a new public key or a private key pair. And then we've got the tags, so you can optionally add the tags for the VM cluster as well to associate any metadata, and then you can click next and review. So you see here that you're getting messages about your deployment, it's been accepted, and should provisioning fail, you'll be notified as well and provided some information on that here. Going to deployment details, we see it's been created, both the infrastructure and the VM cluster. Again, we're directly going into OCI just to prove in this demo that it has been created, but obviously that isn't an essential part of the functionality of the service. It's just for the purpose of the demo. And then the next step is really to now complete with the database. Okay, so here we are going ahead and we're going to enter the, the Exadata database resource. Again, you select your subscription and your OCI tenancy. And then you've got your, so let's kick it off again. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit there. It's happening now. So here we've got, just want to pause there. You have the option to create the Exadata database. You've also got an option there on the plus sign at the top to create the Exadata system. And should you choose that route, what it does, and this is unique to ODSA because we don't have anything comparable in the Exadata database service UI, it will go ahead and do the whole provisioning from start to end. So from the infrastructure layer through to the VM cluster, through to the database. We've only just included this for the purpose of simplicity. Maybe there's some developers, some users who are not actually used to doing this, and therefore we just include it for simplicity. But I think it's more likely that customers will do the granular approach and do it in the 3 stages that I'm showing you. So again, you've got now to create the database, and you've got your resource group, your instance details again, and your database name. We're going to go through, and again, you have your tags tab to categorize resources. With this, you can view consolidated billing, apply the same tag to multiple resources and the resource groups. So here we're doing the backup retention period that we're specifying, and we're going ahead and creating that. So we've created the Exadata database now. And we're now going into a pluggable database to show you. Okay, so with this, what this means now that we have the Exadata database service provision, what you can do with an ODSA, the following management tasks are available. So you can create a database, delete a database, stop a database, and restart a database. And other features that you'll find as well at this level is changing your database password. You can view your database metrics, which I'll cover shortly. You can back up a database and restore a database, and within the PDB layer as well, you can clone, as you can see here. It's pretty small, just on the top level above the Essentials title. And that's how you would then click clone and then proceed to do the clone at the PDB level of the database. Okay, so like we just finished, once we've done that, we then provide you at the PDB level the actual connection string. So you can actually, these dots here on the very far right next to the connection string, you can, what they do is they just open up a copy button that you can create and copy, and then you can just paste that into your Azure to ensure that you can connect from the client side in the Azure applications as well. So the monitoring the metrics, we've done a little bit of work here as well to provide integration and make things easier. So what you have is, with every database created, so every time we go through that process, you will find that we have a custom dashboard that we create for you. And we, what that means then that each database can then show within Azure Application Insights. You have all your metrics there, and for each database, you've then got everything all together in one easy to see tile. I think it's pretty nice functionality because this enables the Azure users to view OCI databases alongside the rest of your Azure data. So that means that you've got this unified telemetry and monitoring as well. And like I said, you have this custom dashboard, and that provides you, as your developers, with all the details that they would need about the Oracle database, such as the resource details, the connection strings for their applications as well. And like I said, what we're doing here is we're actually exporting the metrics from the database. This is behind the scenes, yeah, into a tenancy that is internal, and then we make that available and expose it to our Azure Application Insights so that these metrics can appear there. And again, we can view the logs and tools such as Azure Log Analytics as well, and the Azure Event Grid as well. So again, it was just really a very brief walkthrough just to give you a flavor of what it looks like, what you'd need to do roughly just to stand up a database in OCI through an Azure-like experience UI that we're providing with Oracle Database Service for Azure. And we have a very rich roadmap ahead. So if you are very interested in this service, please reach out to your sales rep, and they can actually engage our technical multi-cloud team to help you. And like I said previously, this does bring you some advantages in the sense of it. First of all, it makes things much easier. It saves you a lot of time, so you're not actually having to stand up and create the actual interconnected tenancies between Azure Express Route and OCI Fast Connect, like you would have to do all the BGP planning to make sure that your IP addresses aren't overlapping and everything like you do with the interconnects. But it gives you this single sign-on with Azure Active Directory. And like I said earlier, you can automatically federate the identity, activate Azure Active Directory federation or not. You can provision and manage the Oracle databases in OCI and not have to go into, from ODSA, and not have to go into OCI. But if you do want to go into OCI and you need to, then you can easily flip and click on the link from the portal to get there. We've got the monitoring the metrics, the events logs as well available for you. And we have a big advantage is the fact that the data and the port charges are included, as well as the ingress and egress for the Express Route and OCI Fast Connect while the traffic's going over the OCI interconnect. And one thing that we've not really delved into too much, but like the OCI Azure interconnect, we do have this collaborative support. So this was forged on the back of the partnership that we established with Microsoft back in 2019, and the same collaborative support model applies. So maybe, would you like to cover this? Tell me our Slack channel for the team.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Suzanne.
With Leo and
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we have an external Slack channel, and there are some fantastic discussions going on there. And I would encourage you to please join our Slack channel. If you go to social.org, that link right there, .cl/601 7Z7 or ZSFU. FU. Anyway, you can get a link to join our external Slack channel. We post any webcasts that are coming up. There's great questions. Also, we have some chat bots there. So if you're using our database cloud services, we have a chat bot called Ask Ed. So you can find out how an OCI CLI command works, or we have Ask Debbie for our DBAS CLI commands structure as well. So please join our Slack channel. Okay, I think the last slide is our resources. We have a number of Oracle Database Service for Azure resources. We have a number of blogs, and we also have, this slide we had left over from Cloud World. So we had some information on Kubernetes as well, and we'll cover that in a future session as well. I'll post these links. We will within the replay area, and this will also be posted on YouTube as well. And I'll make sure to post those links for you as well. So with that, I think, Suzanne, that's all we have. If anybody has any questions, please post those in Q&A or raise your hand. We are planning to have our multi-cloud happenings every month. So please, I'm happy you subscribed and joined us today. Also, if you have any friends, tell them to join, subscribe and join us next month in December, when we'll be talking about more multi-cloud happenings. I don't know, Suzanne, did you have any thoughts on what we're going to cover next month in case anybody's interested?
Yeah, sure. So I think the next thing that we can actually do is, depending on how things go, we could look at use cases that we're working on, adoption use cases, so particular industries, etc. I think what's really going to be interesting is when we could do this a bit more of a deeper dive into it with Azure Kubernetes Service. We have customers actually already using this and planning their migration, for example, right now with ODSA and Exadata Database Service, for example. And like you say, we covered this already, you and I, at Oracle Cloud World, and we went quite, into the ins and outs of the architecture around the Kubernetes parts. I think that will be a good one. I think really this is just going to be a space for us to showcase our fine internal experts as well that we have here within Oracle, right. That really do a lot of customer engagements, and that we as product managers work very, very closely with, alongside the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure product management team as well, and just bring in some internal experts that we can collaborate and share some insights with you. And what I'm really excited about is definitely going to have some industry knowledge sharing on here. So what the trends are within the industry, and if we can get some industry experts as well, that's something that I'm trying to plan as well. I just wanted to say on the back of the resources here, if you are deploying Oracle Database, Oracle Data, excuse me, I'm not very well today, Oracle Exadata Database Service is what I'm trying to say, then please refer to my blog. This is the third one down, which is Getting Started, because it covers everything that I've just gone into today, but really in a much deeper level, as deep as you can get for a blog. It's kind of long for a blog, but it really was the aim to bring all the information together just to get you started. And yeah, we look forward to this every month. and some close engagement. And if you've got some questions, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have any questions or you have any suggestions on topics that you would like to hear Suzanne might bring, we would love to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bring those to you. So, all right, Suzanne, we didn't have any questions, but I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We really appreciate that. And with that, happy Thanksgiving for those of you in the US or anybody else that is going to be have Thanksgiving. We hope that your friends and family enjoy them, and we will talk to you next month. Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Bye.